Being recorded. All right. All right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the speaker series on therapeutic touch this afternoon. My name is Sarah, and I'm a social service worker student from Conestoga College, and I'm doing my placement here at HopeSpring. I'm excited to be here today to introduce today's speakers, Suzanne and Gloria, who are both therapeutic touch practitioners with years of experience under their belts. Gloria is a HopeSpring board member, therapeutic touch volunteer, and a breast cancer survivor. Is that how you say it, Gloria?
Driver.
Driver. Thank you. Driver. She'll be sharing some personal experiences with how this practice aided her through her cancer journey, as well as the rest of her life. Suzanne, as a young mother, had been exploring holistic health practices options for herself and her family. Today, she's a Reiki master and a recognized practitioner of therapeutic touch through the Therapeutic Touch Network of Ontario. Today, they'll be talking to us about the power of this holistic practice and how it promotes healing, relaxation, reduces stress, and fosters well-being. Thank you, Gloria and Suzanne, for being here and taking the time to talk with us today. We are thrilled to have you.
So just one minor correction, Sarah.
Sure.
My name is Susan.
Susan, I'm so sorry.
That's fine. Everybody does that. I'm not offended. I just need to correct it.
And thank you for doing that. All right, if you'd like to take it away, that'd be amazing.
Okay, so very new to me trying to do a slideshow, sharing my screen. We'll see how this works. Okay. Oh, so therapeutic touch. So every year, the Therapeutic Touch Network of Ontario has a new tagline. And this slideshow was developed last year. And last year it was called Activate Your Inner Healer. Your body has an amazing and innate ability to heal itself. Cut your finger. What happens? It heals. Break a bone. What happens? It heals. Undergo through major trauma. It takes longer, but it heals. And therapeutic touch can help with that healing. When I was a young mother, I wanted to see how I could help my family. And I tried many different things when the boys were young. And I'm a Christian, so I also pray. And I know prayer works. But I wanted to see what else was out there. And that was the beginning. Reiki was the beginning of my energy journey. And then I came across therapeutic touch and I was mesmerized. What is it? It's I'm going to just read the screen for now. A gentle, energy-based technique that touches individuals at all levels of our experience, physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. And the practitioner uses their hands as a focus for facilitating the healing process. But therapeutic touch, even though the word touch is in there, is absolutely 100% effective with no touch. And that's what I find so amazing. In person and at a distance. It's amazing. Whoops. So, if you have a garden hose and it's open wide, the water flows freely. But if you kink that garden hose or you step on it, the water doesn't flow properly. And your energy system works the same. When you're little, oh, you have all kinds of energy. until you stub your toe or you fall or somebody takes your toy. And then little by little, the energy is depleted. And when you become an adult and you have adult responsibilities and situations, it gets even worse. So what therapeutic touch does is rebalances your natural flow of energy. It actually repatterns the energy field. And that's amazing. It's a complementary therapy. So that means it doesn't take the place of Western medicine, but it can complement Western medicine. And in some places, some hospitals, the surgeons and doctors have therapeutic touch practitioners come in to help with before and after treatment and care because they know it's effective and it actually helps wound healing and bone knitting to decrease the actual recovery time significantly, up to a third. And that's pretty substantial. There are many different complementary therapies: acupuncture, herbal medicine, massage therapy, visualization, yoga, therapeutic touch. And who can do this? Everybody, anybody, someone who has a compassionate heart and are willing to help themselves and others. I read something very recently. So, how well can you do therapeutic touch? All of us can make a sound, but not all of us can sing really well. It takes someone who has a dedication and a willingness to learn and to practice, 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 practice. That's what we heard from our teachers all the time. Practice, do it on yourself, do it on your family, do it on your friends, whoever you can, to get that practice in. And when you do it on yourself, you know right away what areas are bothering you. So the origin of therapeutic touch. Dolores Krieger is a PhD in nursing. She was a professor in New York. And Dora Kuntz, an intuitive healer. And they collaborated on a number of studies that they did early on. And the outcome was therapeutic touch. In 50 years ago, 51 years ago now. And when doctors would throw their hands up, there's nothing more we can do for this patient, they're palliative. Well, you can give them comfort. You can give them relaxation. You can help calm them. Therapeutic touch will never be suggested to heal anybody. I can't heal cancer. I can't heal diabetes. I can't, that's not going to happen with therapeutic touch. But what it does is allows your body, once it's recalibrated, to heal itself in the best way it can possibly. It doesn't mean you're going to do therapeutic touch on yourself and heal yourself of cancer. No. But what it might allow you to do is take those pain medications and maybe decrease them a little bit so you have a little bit more clarity in your interactions with people. It can help you be less anxious. I'll tell you one quick story. So not too many of us like to go to the dentist. Hands up? No. So I needed dental work done. And after the second needle went into the roof of my mouth, I just started doing therapeutic touch instinctively. My shoulders were not around my ears. I wasn't anxious. I wasn't tense. And I just continued therapeutic touch the whole time. And when the dentist was done, he says, "What were you doing? Were you meditating?" I said, "No, I was doing therapeutic touch." And I explained what I did and my process. And I said, and I feel fine. There was no tension in my gut, no angst. It was all fine. He said, "You need to come and teach my patients." I thought that was great. In 1986, Crystal Hawk and Mary Simpson, who had been learning from Dolores Krieger and Dora Kuntz how to do therapeutic touch, and they were the founders of the Therapeutic Touch Network of Ontario. Over the course of many decades now, there is a standardized curriculum, and it gets upgraded to make sure that we have the most up-to-date information on how to go forward with our practice to help individuals. We have a board, we have different divisions in the board, and it's amazing. There's a curriculum, there's recognized teachers and practitioners. And to become a recognized practitioner, you have to go through a very rigorous and supervised training course. And it takes about a year. And to become a teacher, it takes even more, probably close to 2 years to do that. So these are the individuals that are really amazing and such gifted practitioners, definitely. Okay, there we go. Where can there, and if I'm going to be overtime, you have to tell me. Therapeutic touch can be used in such a variety of areas. I volunteer not only with HopeSpring, I also volunteer at Hospice Waterloo Region to provide therapeutic touch to the residents. And it's amazing. I like the fact that I can use it to help myself if I burn my finger cooking. I just do therapeutic touch and later I don't even feel it. It's so amazing. And it's very, very much appreciated in quite a few settings, not only in hospice. Um, it's it's part of regular protocol at Sick Kids Hospital. How do we start? We have to be grounded ourselves and centered. And here are the underlying assumptions. Everything in the universe is energy, and we don't stop at our skin. The energy field is all around us, down and through us, and grounding is grounding down to Mother Earth. We have to have a compassionate intention with love and caring for each healing partner that we approach to give a therapeutic touch session. That's essential because if you don't have that, it's not therapeutic touch, whatever you're doing. And that's what we do. Our intention to restore order, balance, harmony, and therapeutic touch is holistic. So the first thing you're going to feel is a relaxation response. Just relax. Reduces anxiety and stress. That's why it's so helpful in hospice. I went to see a friend of mine who was dying at hospice, and she was very agitated. Her speech was garbled. Nobody could understand what she was saying. Her son was there. He was also very agitated. So I just did a little bit of therapeutic touch. She calmed right down. You could see it in about 3 minutes. She just was calm. And so he was also calm. He could feel that effect. And that's important. That's really important. Pain management. You might be able to navigate your cancer protocols with a little bit less pain if you have therapeutic touch. Insomniacs like this because it helps with sleep. And you feel good. There is a wealth of information on the website therapeutictouchontario.org, and it's amazing. All the research from all these decades is there for anyone to see and access. So I need to just I'm not going to read that because I would be saying words incorrectly, I'm sure. This is really significant. The effect of therapeutic touch on behavioral symptoms of persons with dementia decreases those behavioral symptoms. And it's so wonderful because there is a lot of dementia and Alzheimer's in increasingly numbers of people. And this can absolutely help them. It can't take away their dementia, but it can help them feel a little bit better and more calm. I'm going to skip this because we're talking about that a little bit later. So a therapeutic touch session, it can be 10, 15 minutes, and there's an additional rest period. It's a two-part process because the rest period is essential to allow your energy field to really have the changes integrated. It's really, really essential. So foundations for therapeutic touch, that's a new curriculum. And that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you so much for all the information. That was great. I know, Moise, did you have some questions prepared?
Yeah, actually, I do have a few questions prepared for Susan.
Okay.
Um, so thank you again for your presentation, Susan. It's really great. Learned a lot about therapeutic touch and its administration. Um, so the first question I would have is from the research you've done related to therapeutic touch, what do you say are some short-term and long-term benefits of therapeutic touch?
So short-term benefit, my burn is going to disappear in like 5 minutes. Um, I have a much better sense of calm and peace. And I know long term, I can help my body as an individual doing therapeutic touch on herself. I can help my body feel more calm, and where I'm feeling a little bit tightness in my shoulder or my arm, I know that therapeutic touch can help relieve that.
Hmm, interesting. And another question is, are there any misconceptions related to the therapeutic touch people may have uh, that maybe it may be a barrier for people for getting into therapeutic touch?
So one of the challenges we have as a practitioner is when they hear the words therapeutic touch, no, don't touch me. No, I don't need to touch you. I can touch you with your permission, for grounding purposes on the feet, the hands, the shoulders. I find that that's beneficial to help the energy, because even if you're helping the energy flow better, it needs to know where to go. So I usually start a session with grounding first, grounding at my feet. And even if I'm in hospice, I just have my hands above the resident and I'm not touching them. It's not necessary. So some people are concerned about that. Some people um, uh, relate or compare it to Reiki. So in Reiki, a practitioner, it's taught that your hands cannot do the work unless you have been attuned by your Reiki master. That's not necessary in therapeutic touch. If you have been shown how to do it for yourself and you are coming to this session with loving compassion, you can do it for yourself. This is an amazing book. It's written by Alison Cook and Crystal Hawk, one of the founders of Therapeutic Touch Network of Ontario. I have copies available, and I've gone through quite a few. But that really makes a difference. And it's important for people to try different things to see what's going to work for them, what they're comfortable with. But
Yeah, makes sense. Just one more question for you, Susan. So from the people that you've seen in the past, those who've experienced therapeutic touch, what would you say have patients said about therapeutic touch that most benefited them? And how often do you recommend therapeutic touch for the most benefits, for the best results?
so that's a very, very personal question because it depends on the individual.
Hmm.
It depends on whether it's somebody who's feeling that they want to experience therapeutic touch because they have exams coming up at university and they need a little bit of calm to help their mind relax a little bit and before and after an exam. So I have a client like that. I don't hear from her too often, but that's what works for her. And then I have another client who comes faithfully every month because she knows that this really benefits her. It's like it just puts everything back in place for her, like recalibrates. And for her, that's what's important. Every interaction between a practitioner and a healing partner will be different, whether it's one session, whether it's down the road, multiple sessions, because your body and what you're experiencing in your life changes you from one session to the next. So it'll be a little bit different every time.
Great. Thank you for your responses, Susan. That's all the questions I have.
I have a few. And Gloria, do you mind if I ask you a little bit more about your personal experience with kind of on both sides of therapeutic touch, like having experienced it and then also being a practitioner now as well? Sorry, you're just muted, Gloria.
I'm talking to myself. Nothing's new there. No, not at all, Sarah. I'll be happy to.
Amazing. Thank you. So can you tell us about how it has affected your life and how it felt before you did it and then how it felt after your first experience with therapeutic touch?
So, very interesting question. Where do I begin?
Yeah.
So, my first experience with therapeutic touch was actually in 2019 in summer when I was, for all intents and purposes, my dad's death doula. He was in hospice in Guelph. And I reached out once we got there asking for any energy healing modality. And I still don't know who the volunteer is, but whoever she was very attuned to what was required. And so both my dad and I both had therapeutic touch sessions to the point where the individual actually taught me the hand-to-heart connection, which was very important in helping my dad journey to crossing over. His transformation was, I would call it conscious dying, in the most beautiful way that one can imagine. Fast forward the following year's summer, unfortunately or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I was diagnosed with invasive lobular carcinoma, kind of breast cancer at stage 2B. It's a sneaky one, where sometimes mammograms don't pick it up. In fact, I had my mammogram on target summer 2019, which showed nothing. And fast forward, not even a year later, um, I found that the lump that I'd found back in 2018 had grown to a point where both my doctor and I were concerned. And so I had a surgical biopsy, and that showed that it was invasive lobular carcinoma stage 2. And of course, the B came later after surgery, because that's when they could ascertain the pathology of the tumor in all its, if you want to call it, the various criteria is what caused its size, etc. So at that point of being diagnosed, I immediately requested either Reiki, because I myself am a trained Reiki master since 2007. And so, having been exposed to therapeutic touch in summer of 2019, I also asked for therapeutic touch. And I was very fortunate to have found an awesome retired nurse who was a volunteer at the time and still is with Wellspring. And she, in fact, did therapeutic touch before all my major tests, because I had to have lobular breast cancer is, like I said, very sneaky. So you have to ensure. My surgeon was excellent. She ensured that I had a CT scan, chest, abdomen, pelvis, because that shows the organs, because it's one that easily spreads to the organs or to the bones. And so I also had a radioactive tracer bone scan. So all that within a month with many different, if you want to say, chemicals that they use in order to ascertain the results of those tests. And of course, a breast MRI. So my earth angel, as I call her, is now a dear friend. And she actually did therapeutic touch at all my appointments for my various tests. The day before surgery, during surgery, post-surgery, and after each and every radiation treatment. And I must say it made a world of difference to my healing. I did not even require any kind of paid meds post-surgery. Neither did I have any broken or torn skin, even though I did what's called accelerated radiation, which means that you, in fact, are receiving twice the number of grays per radiation treatment. So, no surprise, once my treatment was finished, she reached out to say, there's going to be this therapeutic touch online training session. I think you'd be good for it. And fast forward, I did foundations 1, 2, and 3 within a year. And now I volunteer back with Hospice Wellington, which is in Guelph, where my dad resided. And as we talked about earlier, if our branch here in Fergus gets back into Gross Hospital, then we will be there in oncology. And I also volunteer back with HopeSpring to do therapeutic touch for members and their main support person or persons. I do believe in a holistic approach to our well-being. I believe in the fact that we can heal ourselves, but there's a place for allopathic medicine to participate in that healing. And we always have to do our research around our specifics and check in with our higher selves to determine what is the best course of action for individual health situation.
Right. Oh my goodness, that's quite the story, Gloria. My goodness. It's really beautiful to hear your experience about how much it really helped you in your healing process. I know at the beginning you kind of said that you were going back and forth. You either asked for like a Reiki practitioner or the therapeutic touch. And I know, Susan, you touched on how the practitioner is different in those two. But Gloria, how does it feel physically, the difference between Reiki and therapeutic touch?
I think it's a energy match between the practitioner and the person receiving the treatment. So it's a point in time. Everything is always a point in time. So I can't really say. I think I had one or two Reiki sessions, I believe, when I was first diagnosed with breast cancer, and the energy match just wasn't there,
Right.
is what I would say. Nothing against the practitioner nor the treatment. It's a matter of I believe it's all divine, universal timing.
Yeah.
And maybe it's, that if you want to say planting that seed for me to then explore learning therapeutic touch and now being able to offer it to others.
Right. Amazing. Um, Another question for you is what are your like go-to techniques with and without therapeutic touch to increase your relaxation and rebalance?
Yeah, so I would say I've been a meditator for a number of years, and so meditation is huge for me. In fact, I volunteer on a weekly basis where I do meditation for survivingbreastcancer.org out of Boston. And so we have uh, folks from all over the world who attends meditation, and it's open to HopeSpring members as well. Um, so that's my first, I would say, go to. And it's just the breath, because the breath is a healing life force in itself. It's something we can do anywhere at any time without anyone even being aware other than ourselves. It's all intention based. And I think once you have that loving, active, compassionate heart, that you can, in fact, quickly get into that space of groundedness, centeredness, and feel at peace.
Right. Oh, thank you for all that insight. My next question can go to both you and Susan. What can one expect during their first therapeutic touch appointment or session? Like, what's kind of the first intro?
So I, if I have a brand new client and I don't need to go into all of this detail in depth at hospice, that isn't necessary because they're at end of life. So therapeutic touch for them has a little bit of a different meaning in the sense just be calm and relaxed and at peace. But for an individual who's wanting a regular treatment, so I introduce myself. What they can expect is that I'm going to be fully present. I'm going to center myself. I'm after I ground myself and make sure that I'm fully present. We have an acronym, CARER, CARER, so centering. Oh, forget the second one. That's bad. Assessment. You assess the field and it's not long. It's just quick. Do I feel anything different in the field going down or side to side? Do I feel something warm or is there a depletion of energy so it doesn't feel like there's any energy there? Sometimes it feels a little bit prickly. So that's the assessment. Rebalancing, I'm going through all of the motions very carefully and in a very intent way. And I say to the healing partner, I say that you could feel a little bit tingly, you could feel a little bit warm, you might see colors, you might hear sounds. Every session is unique. And I said, and all of this is right. All of this is fine. They sometimes share with me what they're experiencing. I have one client specifically. She tells me everything she sees. She says, okay, now I see a peacock. Okay. Don't know what that means, but that's your experience. But after the rebalancing, there's a reassessment, and then there's ending the session. And then I reflect on whether I feel that I've done the best for this client at this time.
Amazing. Thank you. I guess you kind of answered my next questions as well. I was going to ask if
I
there's.
can add, the
Oh,
only thing
of
I would add
course,
to
Maria.
that,
Yes,
Sarah,
please.
is the way I approach it. I like to tell the story that it's like when you first get out of bed, you know, all your bed sheets are all muddled together, all in disarray. So your energetic fields can sometimes be like that, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. And all that I'm doing through a therapeutic touch session is really um, taking out the chinks from the energy field. So just smoothing it is most probably the way I best explain when I'm doing a session for someone.
I love that analogy. It puts it into terms where everyone can acknowledge it, right? Like we all wake up in a crazy, messy bed. So I like that analogy for sure. That does answer, it goes into my next question of are the results kind of different for each person after each session, depending on what they're looking for and what they need out of it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And there will be a time where I'm doing an assessment and I feel a depletion of energy here, or I feel some prickly here. In Reiki, the Reiki practitioner addresses the different chakras and the different areas systematically in a certain order every time. I don't have to worry about that.
Mm.
I just need to make sure that I have the right intention and the energy will go where it's needed. Mhm.
Amazing. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I would totally agree on that philosophy. I think we in fact so intuitive. It is an automatic, because once as a practitioner you're centered, you're in a place of groundedness, and your active, loving, compassionate heart is at play, then the recipient or the healing partner, as we call the individual, uh, we trust that their energetic fields are similarly very intuitive, and it all occurs as exactly as it's meant to for that individual, in the right order, in the right time, uh, and the experience is whatever they brought to mind in the first place. They can check in with their higher self and get answers to whatever question that he or she may have had prior to starting the session as well.
Right. Amazing. Thank you. What is one way that people can incorporate therapeutic touch into their like daily self-care routines?
I think it's like everything else. It's just like brushing your teeth. If you wanted to just spend 5 minutes in terms of self care, utilizing therapeutic touch, you can absolutely do that. It's adding another tool to your toolkit that you can draw on. And I do believe that our brains actually work in such a way that if we nurture them and practice a specific routine every single day at the same time, in fact, our bodies actually ask for it. So whether that's therapeutic touch or Reiki or Qigong or Tai Chi or meditation or journaling or creative expressive writing or art
Mm.
therapy, anything that gets us out of that mindset where the ego is foremost at play, is the best way, I think, that we can handle life and all that life throws at us.
I agree with Gloria. What's important to understand is that for an individual just to say, okay, I'm going to do therapeutic touch and just go through the motions, they need to be taught how. That is really, really critical
Mm,
because just going through the motions is not going to be therapeutic touch. They
right.
need to be taught how, even if it's only for self-care, even if it's not to have clients or volunteer in the community providing it for anyone else or even your family. Some of my family members don't want me to come near them with therapeutic touch. And some of them say, can you come every day? So it's a very personal thing, but if just like any, so therapeutic touch is an art and a science. And the more you practice it, the better you get. But if you're learning how to play the violin, you still need to have a teacher teach you how to hold it properly, what the strings are, how to use the bow. And in the same way, individuals who want to practice therapeutic touch for self-care should go to a responsible teacher and they can come in contact with someone on the Therapeutic Touch Network of Ontario. They have a database. They can look for a teacher in their area or even a practitioner in their area to see what it's all about, have an experience.
Great, thank you. That's a great resource to have. So thank you for sharing that with us. Um, I know you mentioned that some of your family doesn't want to anything to do with the therapeutic touch, but how would you go about addressing that skepticism with either individuals or their families to try to get people to open up to it a bit more?
Not many in my family,
Just
just a few, and only because they're, I guess, a little bit skeptical about energy work
yes.
as a whole. My son is one. He's in Dartmouth. Mom, that's hooey. Like it doesn't exist. Oh, well, you're wrong. And it's actually quantum physics. So read up on that. And he's an engineer. So we agree to disagree. But he said to me, if you really enjoy doing this and you are helping people do this while you do this, then do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say you just trust that when the person is ready, they are going to come to the realization on their own that
Hmm.
there are other modalities from an integrative therapeutic perspective that may be able to assist them. And everybody's going to find the right integrative therapeutic modality that is specific for them at the right time.
Great.
Well said, Gloria. I agree.
Amazing. Yeah, just divine timing, right? uh,
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just have a couple more questions. What is one ideal of therapeutic touch that you hope that we leave with today? If you had to pick just one, what's the biggest takeaway that you'd want us to leave with?
I think
Therapeutic.
education.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, sorry,
No,
Susan.
go ahead. Go ahead,
No, I
Gloria.
was just going to say that to me, education is the best way to expose anyone to any new thought process. And it's individualized actual exploration where the person can sit with material, go through it themselves, listen to case studies like mine, and all the evidence-based research that's available, and really examine it from their own curious perspective and see how it fits with whatever is going on in their life. And I think that's the best gift we can give ourselves, to be able to explore and have a new way of exploring a different point of view about any subject matter.
Mm-hmm. And the Therapeutic Touch Network of Ontario has all of the research there. And if anyone is looking for something and can't find it, they can put an email in a chat and someone can respond back to them.
Oh, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And just one last question. What message would you like to leave our audience with regarding the importance of self-care and healing practices like Therapeutic Touch?
Self-care is the same as when you're in an airplane and they're giving you the instructions what to do when the oxygen mask comes down. You have to put it on yourself first before you can help anybody else. And in this current climate of difficult times, hearing tragedies, seeing devastating consequences of nature ravaging different areas, you feel a weight on you. So the best thing you can do before you can help anybody else is to help yourself first. Yesterday, I stood bare feet in my backyard looking at the sun, and it was marvelous. That is such a wonderful way to go do grounding, and you only need 5 minutes. It changes your brain chemistry. It's amazing. But do yourself first so that you can help others, even if just your family.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, life is a set of experiences, and the only way we can experience life fully is by exploring. So, the last thing I would want to suggest to anyone is, come and explore therapeutic touch. We have amazing practitioners who volunteer and are willing to share whatever, answer any questions they may have and experience a treatment. So there's nothing like having an actual treatment.
Right. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for all of the wisdom and knowledge that you've shared with us. Do either of you have anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up our session today?
No, just that it's been a pleasure, and thank you for spreading the word. And now let's go and share it far and wide.
Agreed.
We
Agreed.
absolutely will. Yes, we'll make sure this recording gets shared with everybody who wants to see it, everyone who can see it.
Yeah, if I could make one suggestion, you may want to break it up into chunk bites, because people only ascertain, 20 minutes of attention at any one point in
Mhm.
time,
Fair
and this
enough.
was
Yes.
close to an hour. So I think if you had a way of breaking it up and just making sense of the whole thing, that it's programmatic. I think that would be the most probably the best way. And I know social media experts like Mary Lou and her team are definitely able to do that. So can't wait to see the finished product, however you choose to share it.
Great. Thank you for the advice. That is a great tip. Yeah. Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. This has been very insightful, and I've learned so much. And I really hope that this reaches everyone that it needs to reach, and that needs to see this, so they can come and see you and get some therapeutic touch done.
That's great. Thank
Sounds
you.
great. Thanks, Sarah, Susan,
Thank
Moise,
you.
Noelia.